Ghost in the Night with Phil Sams. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Ghost in the Night, a hauntings and paranormal podcast. I am Phil Sams. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come listen to this podcast. I am honored and I greatly appreciate it. I have a lot of admiration for everybody that listens to this podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. Today we have a very, very special guest. Today we have Keith Linder. Now, some of you might recognize Keith. I know when he reached out to me and offered up his story and wanted to come on, share his story, I recognized the name. After doing a quick little search, I realized that, oh shit, I know this story. And that is because he was on an episode of Ghost Adventures. It's famous for not the best reason, but it's famous anyway. This episode was Demons in Seattle. In this episode, Ghost Adventures didn't find shit. And they kind of left the door open that maybe Keith and his then-time girlfriend were maybe hoaxing it. They didn't come out and say it, but they sure the hell implied it. And the fallout from that episode was tremendous. I mean, Keith got a tremendous amount of backlash after that episode aired. And now he's back telling his side of the story. Talks about the Ghost Adventures episode, how they recorded that episode. You know, he goes into a little bit of detail on that. But the main thing that he talks about is they're not the only people that have investigated it there. Yeah, they didn't find anything, and that's acceptable. Anybody that's done any paranormal investigating knows there's times you just don't find shit. I've investigated places that Ghost Adventures has been, and they have got an abundance of evidence. I didn't get nothing. Didn't even get a peep. Didn't get any EVPs. No eerie feelings. But was it a waste of my time? No. Does that mean the place is not haunted or there's not activity there? Absolutely not. It just means I didn't get it. That is the name of the game. Sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. Keith tells how this story has evolved over the past 5 years, essentially. Other people investigated that location and got backed up his claims. And that is what this story is all really about how something could go so wrong and then they turn it around and get some validation. So you're definitely going to want to stick around for this episode. Now, it is a little bit longer. It's about an hour and a half or so, give or take, or actually a little plus. It's a little over an hour and a half interview. But we start from the beginning, before Ghost Adventures, when they first moved in with him and his girlfriend, Tina, and we go all the way up to present day. Now, he has written a book about it called The Bothell Hell House. I will put links to all that stuff and even the PDF form of the research that the researchers did from out of the UK when they came and investigated. I'll put all that up in the show note page. You can find that at philsams.com/surviving-a-poltergeist. All that information will be on there. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe naturally, but you'll also see some footage that Keith has taken in that video. So if you're just listening, head on over to YouTube, check it out. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, especially Twitter, because that is where I give all the updates for the podcast. If I have something going on, I give kind of clues on what the next episode is going to be. So follow us on Twitter at @night_ghost. So without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Keith Linder and his time spent at that location and the fallout from the Ghost Adventures episode Demon in Seattle. Okay, on the phone we have Keith Linder. Now, some of you might recognize the name. His story and his encounters with the paranormal kind of gained some momentum and picked up a little steam and got some national recognition when Ghost Adventures did a episode entirely on their story. How you doing tonight, Keith?
Pretty good. It's weekend night, so we're just snowing outside, which is rare in Seattle, especially this late in the season, but pretty good. Thanks for having me, by the way.
Not a problem. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, snow in Seattle. I thought it just rained up there. We're out of Ohio. I'm out of Cincinnati, Ohio, actually, and we're just coming off a spell of negative 30-degree wind chills and 6-7 inches of snow, and it was like 62 degrees today, and I'm like, cool, I can deal with this.
Oh,
yeah. Now, if for people who aren't aware of your story and the experiences you had to live with, you and the at the time girlfriend, let's start from the beginning. You moved into a home in Bothell. I'm pronouncing that correct, aren't I?
Yeah, Bothell.
Yeah, Bothell. In around 2012. Did the activity start immediately when you moved in, or when did you start noticing the activity, and what kind of activity started the paranormal ball rolling, essentially?
We moved in May 1st, 2012, me and Tina, and the activity pretty much started gradually. Of course, we didn't know it was activity at first because me and Tina combined, I mean, we were relatively new to the paranormal. One of the first things that happened to us in the house that we sort of shrugged off when we moved in, and naturally so, was the kid talk that we heard when we went to pick up the keys to the house, sign the papers, meet the landlord for a second time, and so we're sitting in the living room, me and Tina, and we're just sort of talking, getting a lay of the land, what furniture is going to go where, which closet space is hers, da da da. And out the blue, in the middle of our conversation, man, Tina, we're downstairs, two-story home. We heard a kid talk, and it was very loud, clear, distinct, because we both looked at each other and said at the same time, was that a kid talk? And just for the record, we had no kids. It's only us inside the house. The house is empty. I mean, there's no furniture, there's no lights, there's no power. All the windows are closed. But the noise sounded like it came from one of the bedrooms upstairs. 4 bedrooms upstairs. It sounded like it came from one of them. But once again, we might have spent 5 minutes talking about it, and we thought it was odd. Obviously, that had to have come from outside, even though it didn't make sense that it would. So we shrugged it off. And, fast forward 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we're moving in. I started noticing items missing. One of the first items to go missing that I was aware of was my extra set of car keys. Tina started complaining about her jewelry. She's now missing one earring, one bracelet, one watch. And we both noticed that our silverware, we're now, searching for silverware. You open up your silverware drawer, you grab a spoon or a knife, and you realize that your stash is getting low. But once again, having not ever been, I guess, face to face with the paranormal, we just shrugged it off and sort of put it in the category of these things were lost during the move. It happened. Tina was moving from her apartment. I was moving from mine. We did not live together at the time. This was our first time moving under one roof. But I guess moment of truth, if you will, for us, the final realization that we were not the only occupants of the home came about a month or 6 weeks into the home. We're watching a movie, me and Tina sitting on the couch side by side. And Tina has this plant. She has a 4-foot tall plant, and she had positioned it by the entertainment center. So we're watching a movie on Netflix, and out the blue, the plant shoots up in the air. I mean, it really darts up in the air, maybe a few inches off the ground, and does a 360 spin, and then falls over, keels over in our direction. We're sitting side by side, so we saw it together plain as day. We both have a sort of look of awe or shock on our face, and we're asking ourselves the question, did that just happen?
Right.
I mean, it's got 6 or 7, 8 p.m. at night, and this plant just shoots up and falls to the ground. And we rushed over to the plant. I mean, we rushed over thinking that either we're on candid camera or we signed up for some reality show that we didn't know about, and that this house is bugged and monitored, because we honestly thought the joke was on us. I mean, it's Tina's plant, and we're looking and combing through the leaves, looking for a wire, looking for a remote control device. And the more or the longer we look, the more we realize, okay, we're not finding any man-made item attached to this plant. Therefore, the only thing that we're left with is, I think we have a ghost on our hands. And that's what we said. So I think we have a ghost in our house, because now all that stuff that we put aside and sort of shrugged off, they now come into play. They
Right.
now get introduced of, oh, that's what the kid cough is about. Oh, that's what the missing items. And keep in mind, at this phase, we are now finding items that neither one of us owned, mainly kid toys. I mean, kid toys were showing up and popping up out the blue, meaning you wake up and, you go to sleep and wake up the next morning and there are kid toys scattered throughout the house, on the counter, on the kitchen table, coffee table. And we don't have kids. We don't have kids. It's just us two living there. And, yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I would say, if you don't have any kids and you walk downstairs or something and all of a sudden you see a kid's toys in the living room or in the kitchen or whatever, you'll be like, all right, what the hell's going on here? Now, anybody that's seen, the Ghost Adventures episode, that was probably some of the stuff you documented yourself. That was some really, really high level poltergeist type of activity. When did things progress to kind of go from maybe like a 5 where you're at now with things moving to the 10 level where it got real and, you might have even been a little fearful at that point?
Well, yeah, I tell people, the activity started in 2012, and we had a lot of activity in 2012. And people should understand, the public, and that includes Ghost Adventures, didn't catch wind of our case until 2 years after the fact. And by then, you're right, that's when we're now on a scale of 1 to 5, as far as activity goes, we're at a 5. And that started in 2014.
Okay.
Also, as a means of defense as to why do we stay in the house so long,
Right.
people need to understand that in 2013, we had no activity. The activity did come to an abrupt stop
Okay.
around November, December 2012, and all of 2013 was relatively quiet. So we thought we dodged the bullet. We thought the advice given to us online and paranormal teams and churches in the area had finally made these spirits move out the home.
Right.
Well, I guess the disclaimer to that is, if they should come back, they typically come back worse than before, and they did. And when they came back worse than before was in March, April of 2014. The things that this case, I guess, is known for, or for lack of a better word, famous for, is the Bibles that caught fire,
Yeah.
the crosses that caught fire, the wall writings that individuals might have saw in the Ghost Adventures episode.
Mm-hmm.
That started getting the media and public, because now we're spinning our wheels and nothing we do is working. A priest has to the home multiple times and nothing is working. And it's just getting, the activity is getting more escalated with every troubleshooting that we do. And so it attracted local media, attention, which springboards it into the I guess blogosphere, if you will,
Right.
and that caught the attention of Ghost. Yeah.
Right. Now, since we're kind of at the Ghost Adventures part. Now, I know from what I've, heard of your case and watching that episode, you did not come out and search for them. You kind of, if I'm understand it, everything correctly, the local news in the area kind of picked up on your story, and you did an interview with a local reporter, and that's pretty much where Ghost Adventure heard of your story, and they came to you, correct?
Yeah, Ghost Adventures found, like I said, we didn't know Ghost Adventure existed. And you're right, the local reporter, I believe it was Cairo Como News in Seattle, Lisa Jaffe, and she heard the loud bangs. Keep in mind, we've had furniture and items go flying left and right, loud banging, which is, typical Poltergeist stuff.
Right.
So she came, and her cameraman came to the home, I think it was October 30th of 2014. And I knew they were probably there for a story. It's Halloween time to get the story and get out of here.
Right.
And I didn't predict the loud bang, but I'm glad that there was a loud bang, because when she heard the loud bang, I don't know if you saw the piece that she did,
right.
She paused, she looked up to the roof, and she was like, "What was that?"
Right.
But she's a friend of Dave Schrader, and she said, "Hey, I know Dave Schrader." And Dave called me the next day. The next morning, I got to work about 10 a.m. I get a call, and it's Dave Schrader, and he's like, "Hey, my name is Dave Schrader. I'm a friend of Lisa Jaffe. She sent me some video. I saw the news piece. I'm one of the chief researchers for Ghost Adventures." And he interviewed for maybe like 10 to 12, 15 minutes, asking a few questions. They were generic questions. And I was honest with him, like I'm honest with everybody. And I told him, we're renters. So whatever I say you guys to do first is to get approval from the landlord. And he made that stipulation.
Right.
And so, yeah, I contacted the landlord, who at that time had been made aware of the activity. And he said, "Yeah, bring us to me." And I Ghost Adventures caught wind of the case.
Now, on that episode, that showed a lot of the footage that the videos that you recorded. Now,
that's all that footage. Yeah, all that stuff you see on that
right.
footage is my stuff. Yeah.
So, I mean, when that stuff starts happening, and things like the classic one is when you're, I guess, in your office, I believe, kind of with a video camera pointing out toward the hallway, and things are I think it was a candle or a candle holder flying.
Yeah.
When that stuff started happening in that magnitude, did you start doing a little research? Because I know they even mentioned in the episode that you were renters and the landlord and everything. Did you talk to the landlord and say, "Hey, is this common?" Or were you the first people that lived in that house, or were there renters before you that maybe experienced some stuff?
Yeah, those are, like I said, those are like, we get, paranormal teams have at that time already been to the house, and they have questionnaires. But also me and Tim, we're logic thinkers. And yeah, the house was built in 2005. We moved in 2012.
Okay.
Obviously, the homeowner has chosen not to live in it. So you start right there.
Right.
And I went back to him, the homeowner, like, "Hey, is there anything nefarious about the house?" Give him the opportunity to confess or tell me. He said no, and he was nonchalant about it. Then my next question to him was, "Well, how about the other previous tenants who lived in the home?" And he said not to his knowledge.
Okay.
But I struck gold one day when a letter arrived in the mail that was addressed to a previous tenant. And instead of giving the mail to him like I normally do, I Googled the name on Facebook, and I found a previous tenant who lived in the house 4 or 5 years before we did. And we chatted on Facebook, and I told her who I was and where I was currently living. And I said, we're experiencing weird things. I didn't tell her what the weird things were. I just said, "Hey, me and my girlfriend are experiencing weird things." And she confirmed to me, because she said the house, for them, these are her words, not mine, was a living hell. It was the beginning of the end in that place. They had phantom footsteps, doors slammed, countless electrical issues, kitchen cabinet, the kitchen cabinet phenomena that we experience a lot. They had They had a live-in nanny who just outright left the house one day and took the kids with her when both of her were in the town. But the thing that struck me the most that I had not yet went public, even with Tina, was the shadow figure. Where she told me that her son, whom, for the record, his room was my office. Her son, who saw the shadow figures while living in the home, and was still seeing them where they live currently, which was Yakima, Washington. I had already seen the shadow figures by that time. And when she described, or when her son described them, that was confirmation to me that I was, like I said, not going crazy. But all this information, going back to Ghost Adventures, I was given to them. They interview you, you tell them, you talk to Dave and the producers, and there's a lot of prep work before the guys arrive 2 months later.
Right.
And and I gave them a treasure trove of stuff. I gave them the previous contact info, hoping that they would reach out to her and get her side, because that builds up my side.
Exactly. That's kind of why I asked that question, because when you contacted me about being on the podcast, I had seen that episode late sometime in 2018 on a Friday when they were, how they always do the all-day marathons. I think I came home from work, had it on, I was doing some stuff, and it came on, and naturally it kind of caught my attention. I sat down and watched it, and that episode struck me because when you reached out to me and I said, wait a minute, you sent me an email, and I said, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. I said, oh, that's the episode I remember, because that is the one episode. I'm not an avid Ghost Adventures watcher. I've seen a lot of them. I'm not going to say I've seen all of them, but I've never once seen them not find anything. I made a joke on a podcast, of one of my podcasts earlier, that they could find evidence in a Wendy's bathroom. That's how, not saying they kind of push the boundaries a little bit on evidence, but they always seem to find great evidence. And that episode stuck out to me because they didn't find anything. Excuse me. And they kind of, and I want to get into this, they kind of left the door open that maybe you were, maybe, I don't want to say hoaxing it, but blowing up this activity a little bit for, I don't know what they thought. Yeah. But so they actually knew, you gave them the information of a previous tenant, and they actually knew that and left that out.
Yeah, and like I said, they came in November, December of 2014. The episode originally aired February of 2015. We gave them a treasure trove because I'm an IT professor, and I knew the importance of documenting the phenomenon happening around us, because I'm not thinking paranormal terms. I'm thinking I one day got to move out of this place. Right. I one day got to use this as a reference for my next home, and I also got to document for insurance purposes and just be on the up and up. But yeah, and then when we saw the episode for the first time when it originally aired, I saw the omitting of the previous tenant's comments. But I also saw something that even made me more upset than that was when, and maybe you remember this, is when they sort of, there was a scene in the show where they said they talked to Native American somebody.
Right.
They were specific at who, and that Native American person said that there are no Native Americans ever being reported in the Bothell area.
Right.
And I'm from Texas. I moved to Seattle in 2005, and I know off the top of my head that that's totally false.
Right.
Bothell, Washington is in Snohomish County. Snohomish County is a Native American name. The Pacific Northwest, like other parts of the country, was rich with natives and originals, inhabitants, to settlers' arrival, the whole Lewis and Clark thing. And also the fact that all you and anybody, even the listeners listening to this piece right now, if you Google Bothell, Washington, look several Wikipedia pages, you're going to be met with Native American history and the story of settlers arriving and the original founder, I forgot his first, but that's Bothell, and Seattle and all that stuff. And then I was like dumbfounded that came out of the episode, because that's easily verifiable.
Right.
I mean, that's in today's modern age, you could have got away with that 50 years ago without the internet, but now with the internet,
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can have access to the same information, and they threw that out there. But you're right. And other people who follow Ghost Adventures or follow the paranormal, who watch it, it's been on for 8, 9, 10, 11 years, came and found me and told me, we've never seen them treat house occupants so heavy-handed.
Right.
You know, it seemed like they came in there and it was them versus you or them versus your story. And it was almost like they were saying, well, this is all too good to be true and all that. And, you know, why is she sleeping in the room? And the next room has got this crucifix. But at the same time, this is what they do the last 8 years. They go into dangerous burning locations, activities that high. But then they didn't get any activity. But I knew when they arrived that might be a problem, because keep in mind, once again, they're working with me, they're working with the home tenant, and they tell you before they arrive, and this is weeks in advance, how long their investigation is going to last. And their investigation is written on paper to last 5 hours. Okay? And I knew right then and there that's not a long time to get evidence.
No.
Even in a house as diverse as ours, 5 hours is an eye blink. But they, you know, I didn't fault them for not getting evidence. What I faulted them for was either they over-exaggerated, or Keith's writing the wall writings, or Tina's doing it behind his back. Hey, that Tina chick, she's kind of weird, she's kind of interesting, without even, you know, any data to support that, except, oh, I got a butterfly in my stomach. It was just weird.
Right. Earlier this week, I went, you know, preparing to talk to you, I went back and watched that episode again. And like I said earlier, my first impression of that episode when I saw it and I, you know, first started talking to you, and my remembering of that episode was that they kind of left the door open for the hoaxing. But as I watched it again a couple days ago, just to kind of refresh my memory, so I had all the facts from that episode down, from the very beginning when, what's his name, Dave, the researcher that contacted you, is that?
Yeah.
When they did an interview together, it's almost like they were setting it up that they were kind of going to push this in a certain direction. In the way, and probably what it is they didn't find anything. So in editing, they kind of pushed it toward the direction that they didn't find anything. Maybe this is just a bunch of BS. But
yeah,
when I watched it back, I was like, wow, from the very beginning, when even they did their little interview, they were kind of saying, and I was watching it with my fiance, and 2 or 3 times through that episode, Zach was saying, well, we're not leaving here till we find out what's going on either way. And you know, that either way is a powerful that's a powerful statement, especially knowing what I know now. I'm like, they were, and even my fiance made a note, was because I kind of told her the story, and I said, I want to watch this just to kind of, you know, refresh. And Zach said that, and she said, that's bullshit right there. They're not gonna find anything, and they're leaving. And I said, and the funny thing is, and because we had talked in our pre-interview phone call, and you told me they were only there for 5 hours. I'm like, really? So they were building it up. But like the Native American portion, what you were just talking about, you know, they found one, and this is where editing comes in. They found one Native American tribe, elder of a tribe, I guess, and that tribe might not have been in that particular area. You know, they didn't go out to find other ones. So they edited that in there to kind of throw the doubt on you and your girlfriend at the time. Now, in my research for doing this interview, there was a backlash after that episode aired on you and her, correct?
Oh yeah, huge backlash, especially towards Tina, and you know, the backlash was once again, y'all made it up. Y'all wasted Ghost Adventures time. That Tina, well, at the same time, they're saying we made it up. They're saying Tina's the demon lady.
Right.
Tina's Tina's possessed.
Mm-hmm.
The activities attached to her. It was like they're trying to have their cake too.
Right.
Either we made it up or agent. Which one is it?
Yeah.
So So yeah, the backlash of the because I reached out to Dave and Zach afterwards, and just so you know, we didn't hear from them for 2 months before the episode aired, 2.5 months, and then the week before the episode aired, they had invited us to appear on Aftershock, which they were going to fly us out in March to do an episode on Aftershock to see where things were at now.
Right.
But at the same time, they were not telling us what they found from the first trip.
Right.
Well, we saw the episode and we told her, no, there's no Aftershock.
Right.
Because like I said, the backlash was 90% or 100% against me and Tina.
Right.
And we were like, what did we do? I mean, you bring up an interesting point in the episode when Zach's sitting around that table, and I guess they're in a hotel or somewhere.
Right.
And they're like, we're not going to leave this house until we find what it is we're looking for. While at the same time, I have your contract and we all signed it, and there's a PDF of it of how long you actually want to stay in the house, which is 5 hours.
Right.
So and I get it. It's the TV aspect of it. It's the entertainment aspect of
Exactly.
it. I do tell people had they had found activity while they were there. There's 2 episodes that they film while in the house. One where they find something, then because there's a lot of things that's on the cutting room floor. My conversation with Zach, my conversation with Dave.
Mm-hmm.
So they spin it, and Ghost Adventures. Majority of the show is voiceover work anyway.
Right.
Zach is given from a studio, so that gives them a lot of latitude to shape a show
right.
in any way they be based on what they find. But it was shocked to me that organization that prides itself on helping people and getting to the truth,
right,
would just throw us to the wolves. Because I mean, and this is no sour grape. This is just truth.
Right.
They threw us to the wolves.
Right. And I've seen other episodes where they didn't get as much as they normally get, and I can't think of the episode right offhand, but they didn't go to the extreme of pushing the story where they pushed yours. They were kind of a little bit more, for lack of better, gentler with that particular episode, I guess, than they were with you. Now, just so everybody else knows, this was about the time when the whole split happened, correct? Somewhere in that general area with the Ghost Adventures crew, with Nick leaving and that rift that happened. That's right around that time.
Yeah, that was the same season that Nick left. He left, because all seasons were split in half just around Christmas holidays.
Right.
Nick put in his walking papers, or it was announced back in October, November, right before they came to the house, because we thought that he was going to be coming with them, and then when he didn't show up,
right,
a news piece or that news release went out. And then when the season came back in February for the second half, I think it was season 11 or whatever. That was during that time period.
Yeah, so not to say that had any effect on it, but probably Ghost Adventures, the umbrella of Ghost Adventures was probably under a little bit of a stress. It's probably a stressful time for him. But one thing I want to get into, like you said, they spent 5 hours at a location. Now, I have a lot of followers on Twitter and some of my other social media, and most of them, or not a lot of followers, I meant to say a lot of my followers are paranormal investigators. Every paranormal investigator knows that 5 hours isn't enough. You can go spend hours, 8, 10, 12 hours at a location and not get anything, and go back and spend 5 hours and get something. It's a crapshoot. You're not going to get something. Your chances of getting something in 5 hours, that cuts everything in half. You need to spend more time. And I would always assumed the way they cut and edit the show that they actually spent maybe a day or two at a town doing the interviews and everything and doing a little bit more investigation than just 5 hours.
Yeah, that's what we thought, and that's what the homeowner thought when they agreed to come. And like I said, when we saw that there's 2 teams that arrived, A team and B team.
Right.
The B team arrives first for B-roll, and they were there 3.5 days. B team, but they're doing only reenactments. They don't care about ghosts or nothing. They're just there to do reenactments,
right,
and do an episode. And they hire local help. People they hire are local. So that was interesting. And then when I saw the actual groundwork investigation, I was like, oh, okay, you guys are in here about 11 p.m., out by 3 a.m. Okay, wow.
Right.
That's a lot of, that's moving a lot of camera equipment for a short period of time. But okay, I get it. I get it. And yeah, it was just weird. And then I knew the mission was over before it started.
Right.
But once again, I didn't think the fallout would be on us. Like the onus would be on us. Like, hey, if we don't find anything, you guys wasted our time. And shame on you. And I didn't know that. If I knew that risk was there,
Right.
I never would have called.
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth it. I mean, so the Ghost Adventures episode airs. There's a fallout. Where do you go from here? You are still. This aired 2015, correct?
Yeah, this aired February 28th of 2015.
And you did. You moved out in 2016, correct?
I moved out May of 2016. Yeah, Tina moved out late February. Tina moved out early March, right after the episode aired, because of that episode. She had it with the show. It had strained our relationship. In addition to all the activity we're already experiencing, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Screw me, screw them, screw this house.
Right.
And I was this close to moving out myself.
Right.
Because now I'm in this crazy house by myself.
Right.
And then I get an email out the blue from a paranormal team on the East Coast. Nikki Novell reaches out to me. And having seen the episode, one of the first questions she asked me was, number one, are you still in the house? Are you having activity? And boy, did Ghost Adventures do a number on you.
Right.
And she and her team, she asked very point-blank questions, gave me a questionnaire to fill out, and she was like, hey, it's you're well within your rights to say no, but we would like to, if it's possible, rehabilitate your case. And really wanted to do that after learning the short period of time that Ghost Adventures was there. By then, I was so jaded, my knee-jerk reaction was no, meaning I'm not letting anybody else come into this house with K2 meters or whatever. Right. I'm done. I'm about to tell the landlord I'm out of here. Well, she said, no. What we would like to do is we heard you had cameras of your own, and if if you feel comfortable, can you reset those up? And we're willing to monitor your house 24/5, 5 days a week, 24/7. I got teams on standby who just have nothing better to do, who just want to watch your cameras in every room and document the noise, the bumping, the knocks, the door slams, the movement. And we want to do that for a period of 6 or 7 months, build up a nice treasure trove, if you will. And once we get to that level and you're comfortable, and we think we got, because we got one phase of video data, and the next question anybody's going to ask is, what did you ever set foot in the house? And if you want to, 7 months down the line, allow us to come in, we'll come in. We'll live there. We want to live in your house, and we'll be there for 3 weeks or more.
Right.
And that seemed reasonable. In addition, once again, on the flip side of that, I started reading myself about the phenomena we were having, and the word that kept coming up in my reading was Poltergeist.
Right.
And a name in all the books that I was reading about Poltergeist was Steve Mera.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Mera is a parapsychologist in the UK who's investigated several Poltergeist cases, written several books about the phenomena. And I kind of, as a Hail Mary, I sent him all the video and audio footage and the previous tenants' notes and all that, and developed a email correspondence with him that lasted for like 4 months. And so, yeah, by the end of, or I guess the fall, if you will, of 2015, both the U.S. team were monitoring my house via remote CCTV TVs, infrared cameras, and I'm having email exchange and Skype chat with Steve Mera and Don Phillips. And both teams made it clear, they would like to come live in the home after seeing enough data to make them think, well, there's smoke, there's fire, there's something here. We might be able to, they thought, both teams thought we might be able to rehabilitate your case, while at the same time, this is what we do. We study phenomena.
Now, before we get too far into this, just for people who maybe aren't completely and totally aware or familiar with your particular experience, you documented a lot of evidence yourself. The activity that you had was, things flying, things moving like the plant, things catching on fire, Bibles burning, and also even the fire department had to come because a poster caught on fire in your office, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, and it's all documented, and you have a YouTube channel. Where can they, and I'm sure you have a lot of this stuff on YouTube, some of these videos on YouTube. Where can people go see that haven't maybe seen the episode or seen any of the other documentaries? Where can they go and find you on YouTube? That way they can kind of see what we're talking about.
Yeah, so if they go, you just have to type in Keith L. My last name is Linder. Just type in Keith L. And YouTube will throw you into my channel.
Right.
It's really easy to find. But yeah, I started keeping a Excel spreadsheet and a video diary, which is YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, I think, the videos now on YouTube of when the phenomena began. Because when you have, we're having chairs thrown, bar stools thrown, fires, and even the paranormal teams that you tell over the phone who live in Seattle, sometimes, and yeah, you're hearing it for the first time, you don't know this guy from Adam, it can sound a little bit far-fetched or too good to be true.
Oh, yeah.
So some of the things we were advised to do was set up a video camera. If a ghost is banging on your door while you and your girlfriend are sleeping every night, put a tripod in your hallway and see if you can catch that. Right. Well, we did. Well, Poltergeist would knock the camera down, turn it off, plug it, throw it across the room, and outright take it. I have over countless cameras that are missing to this day, but out of 20 attempts, you do get lucky, and you get one video out of 20, and that one video gets uploaded to YouTube. Right. And also, when events happen, I do a timestamp. When was the flower pot that was thrown on Tuesday at 8:35? Mm-hmm. I know some researchers out there might be a trend. It may be throwing flower pots 8:35 every day of the week.
Right.
And that'll come out on a spreadsheet, that'll stand out, as clear as day. Right. So I start keeping a log. The me and Tina start documenting, all my chats with the previous tenant I saved, all this stuff that, we just gathered and gathered and gathered. That's why it was so easy for me to give it to any team that come to my house. I'm like, here you go. I gave Ghostbusters a thumb drive, Nikki a thumb drive, Steve and Dawn a thumb drive. And it was easy for them to look at the information. So, yeah, but you're right. The burning Bibles, the upside-down crosses, even the fire department, when they came to the home, they could not determine why the poster caught on fire. Right. It's not near, you can see the poster on the wall. There's no heat source near it. It's not near a lamp. It's not near a portable heater. But they just write on their report, their PDF report, the fire department of unknown. Now I know why the poster caught fire because I got the house from hell. Right. But I didn't tell them that. But they go back to their home base or whatever, and they got to fill out a report. And the fire department did make a second trip to the house just to confirm the first trip. And I have a record up there. I have the PDF of them admitting we don't know what caused the fire, but hey, your house been burnt down, so everybody. Yeah. So all that to a researcher, to an investigator, it adds up, and it's important, and that's what sort of gave credibility to me and Tina, right, to Nikki and Steve and Dawn and other paranormal teams. It's 4 years of stuff. Okay, right. He's maintenance guys. He's got Comcast, T-Mobile. AT&T coming by, fixing or looking at the electrical issues, writing no problem found. He's doing all this due diligence stuff to show that he's going through, hoops and hurdles to ascertain why is his lights always cutting off and on, and the electrical guy can't figure out why you're having electrical problems because he's checked all the wiring, everything's fine. The power company can't understand why at the present time while you're on the phone, your houses have no power, but they show power where they're sitting running to your house. So all that stuff is documented, and that's a treasure trove for research.
Right. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. Okay, we're back from the brief little break. So let's go ahead and pick up where we left off with Ghost Adventures has done their thing and made life difficult for you, essentially. And you have this other paranormal team out of the East Coast, and then the team out of the UK want to come in and kind of see what they can find. Now, at this point, after the Ghost Adventures team or the Ghost Adventures episode, how was the evidence? I mean, how was the activity? Had it ramped up, or was there kind of a lull in the activity at this point before the other teams come in and do their investigation?
Well, between the time Ghost Adventures and UK team, maybe 11 months, maybe 12 months,
right.
Activity is now just me living in the home, and we're down to level 1 level activity. And by level 1, I mean there's a forever constant that remains in the house always, and those are pretty much phantom footsteps, teleporting of objects, okay, and the loud bang.
Right.
So that was still happening after Tina had moved, and that still happened with just me in the home. No more fires, no more objects being thrown, none of the violent stuff.
Right.
So I'm Steve and Dawn that hey, these three things are still remaining, and that's enough right then and there. Even for Steve, that's more than enough.
Right.
And so yeah, that piqued his curiosity and Dawn's curiosity. They're traveling 10,000 miles.
Right.
Nikki and them at that time have already concluded phase 1 of their investigation. I talk about this in my book. We've monitored the house 7 months and got a treasure trove, like I mentioned earlier, the women screaming, the child screaming, the phantom footsteps, the loud banging, door closures, electrical issues, countless electronic issues. Now they have to do the boots on the ground. Both teams do.
Right.
And they're now putting forth a proposal. And what was interesting, there was never a question as far as expectations of them living in the house. Because I thought, well, if y'all going to come investigate my house, y'all got to live there. And they're like, of course, why wouldn't we? And that was a relief to hear both teams say that.
Right.
And Steve and Dawn arrived first, late January of 2016, and they stayed 6 days the first time they came. And when they arrived, they bring in all this gear, crate after crate after crate. They've got to clear customs, and they're being picked up from the airport, brought to my house. And, so, I mean, and I'm just getting out of the way. Everybody's got their own room, thank God. I said, hey, this is your room. This is your room. And they just started doing what, they had a protocol. Steve and Dawn have a protocol that they execute. And I'm just over here in the corner working from home. I got my laptop. I'm, working from home. When they ask questions, they need something or access to something, I give it to them. But they're picking up data the minute they walk there. One of the first phenomena Steve and Dawn witnessed when they got to my house is the front door opened by itself. I told Steve months and months in advance, and I got it written in diaries of ever since Tina left the home, even when she was living in the home, there were days when I would come up to my house. I mean, I'm halfway up the street of my house, and our house, the garage door, you can raise it up with remote control. You got it in your divisor. Well, the activity had pivoted so much on me to where now my garage door would now open on its own without me touching my visor. All I have to do would be about less than 40 yards from my house, the garage door would go up or go down, or the front door would open, or the opposite. If I'm about to leave the next day to go to work and brushing my teeth and getting dressed, okay, I'm ready to go out the door. I'm going to grab my coffee, grab my laptop bag. You can hear the garage door going up as I'm preparing to leave. It was just like the spirit. I mean, Tina one day, she was like, hey, Keith, because Tina will leave before me. She's like, hey, garage door's up, or hey, all your front doors, all your car doors are open, trunk's open. So I told Steven all this stuff. And whether he believed it or not, like, okay, whatever, dude. He saw that day one when he got to the house.
Mm-hmm.
They had got to the house and realized they didn't have any personal effects. So we went to the Fred Meyer. We came back from the Fred Meyer, and as we're coming to my house and pulling up my driveway, the front door opened by itself. And Steve, having only been at the house for maybe a few hours, writes in his diary, even in his book, he has a book by himself called Fire and Whispers.
Mm-hmm.
He says, when I saw that, when we came back from the store, and this is his mental thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I thought that might be a little hoaxy, like, okay, somebody Keith got is working the house from outside or remote or whatever. But it gets even deeper because next day, they're setting up the equipment. They're taking readings of the house. They're establishing the baseline and whatever. And one of my motion cameras is in the living room, and it's facing the front door. And I'm working off my laptop, and Steve and Donna huddled over there by the kitchen counter looking at their gear. And all of a sudden, my laptop goes beep, beep, beep. And they hear that noise, and I'm like, hey, guys, we got motion being detected in the next room. So they see me as clear as day sitting at the table. They're closer to the camera than me. And I call them over to my laptop, and I open up because it sends me a picture because the camera takes a snapshot. And I open up the email, see the attachment. They see the timestamp. They hear the beep. And you can see there's 5 pictures in the email. There's pictures of the camera looking at the door. And then I think the 4th or 5th picture is the camera now looking at the wall.
Right.
Okay. All within a nanosecond or two.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that just blew their minds away. And now we got to mosey on over there to confirm it with our own eyes. And true enough, this camera has been turned 180 degrees while 3 men are in the kitchen. Keith in plain sight. Dawn and Steve were together. And for the last 2 years, because I think Dave even said it on the episode of why does everything always happen off camera? And I always tell people, because I can't predict this stuff.
Right.
They commandeer my cameras. They move them, they unplug them, they turn them upside down. But Steve and them saw that. And then when Steve saw that, and Don and them saw, they had to take a cigarette. It was funny. They went outside and took a cigarette break. And they talked about that, but they're like, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Right, yeah. I mean, because they did their research. I mean, they saw the episode of Ghost Adventures, so
oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I'm sure they approached it, in the documentary, because they did do a documentary on it, and they highlighted, like this with the camera turning in part of it. They come at the paranormal in their investigation as more of an academia and more I don't want to say more scientific, but they look at it through like somebody that is, a scientist. The way I viewed what they do and how they talked about it, they were more scientific in that matter because they view things through scientific and through like academia, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So they probably came in, with their minds open that something could be happening here, or even, maybe Zach Bagans was right. Maybe there isn't anything here, so.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So they
talk about their conversations. Yeah.
So they came at it the way it should be. Every paranormal investigator, you have to keep your mind open to both sides of the story because the truth is always somewhere in the middle. And when they started seeing this activity, it probably blew them away a little bit from what they knew about the case. They saw your videos, they saw the Ghost Adventures, the 2 completely different ends of the spectrum, and they're kind of seeing what's going on here. It had to have really sparked their interest and really pumped up the investigation for them.
Yeah, because they reviewed the material, and like I said, most investigations, it's the truth is always somewhere in between,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And people can sometimes get ahead of their skis with their story or with their experience. And I understand a researcher has to guard against the house occupant, going overboard with the phenomena that was taking place. What kept me and Tina honest was, number one, our record keeping. I approached everybody with the same material and said, hey, review this stuff. I didn't call the episode Demons in Seattle. That's not my name. You guys got to figure out what's in this house.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all came back to Demons in Seattle. Okay, that's you guys. But Steve and Dawn, they looked at the material. They watched the Ghost Adventures episode, but they had their own methodology.
Right.
And Steve done this for 30-some odd years, and Dawn as well. It was like, and you saw the documentary, Steve said, we have techniques built into our methodology that can pull the phenomena out. We don't go in to repress it. You can repress, you can inhibit your own investigation by a certain mentality. We come in objective, we listen to Keith's story, and Steve even says it. We came to two conclusions when we decided to take Keith's case. Either he's delusional, and therefore we have to help that aspect of it, or he's 100% sincere. And they give me evaluation after evaluation, and as it looks right now, and all the evidence is bearing fruit, he's looked like he's sincere.
Right.
Okay. But you see Hokey, Holton or whatever, Invisible String, it would be the first one to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But so that when they saw those two instances, I was glad because those have been a pain in my side for 4 years.
Right.
And I knew they were at the right place when that happened because I knew, okay, the spirits, they want to interact with these guys. Yeah, they find these guys worthy of interaction.
Now, Ghost Adventures pushed the demon aspect of it. And from what I kind of gathered from the documentary, the guys from the UK, they were more in the poltergeist part of it. And what was their finding? Especially because the people who saw the Ghost Adventures, your office got marked up with Indian symbols and 666 and all that. What did they determine via, the demonic, or was it just a standard poltergeist activity? Because they caught evidence. They caught 400 and some odd EVPs the first 2 weeks. What was their determination on what was actually haunting that particular location?
Well, Steve broke it down to two categories. He said it was something that he's never seen. He said there's 70% of the activity taking place in this house lends itself to poltergeist activity. Those who are familiar with poltergeist activity know, or the theory, I should say, is poltergeist activity seems to manifest where there's an agent. Somebody in the house is the agent in which this phenomena is springing from.
Right.
Textbooks tend to point to adolescent children, mainly females or girls. So generally, researchers start right there. If you can get to the person where the activity is centered around, you can squash the activity altogether. What Steve found weird about this case is you're having manifestations in this house that are poltergeist-like, textbook poltergeist, but some of this activity has happened when you're not at home. Some of this activity has happened when you're elsewhere, like at work, at a hotel. Some of this activity has happened when you and Tina are not at home, or when she's at home and you're not. So there's no agent in the equation that we know of, because we've proven that the activity sometimes is even more dangerous or more extreme when neither one of you are not even in the house. The wall writings and all the stuff you see on my wall, we were not home when that happened.
Right.
That happened when we were gone. Or when you come home and our house is turned upside down, even though the ADC security is still on and not been tripped. That is poltergeist activity, but most researchers see that when the house occupants are in the home. The other side is that, we have seen objects float and fly by, zoom by while we're there. Once again, poltergeist activity, But what Steve said, the flip side is we also see what he was pointing to is residual activity, landlocked phenomenon. And that some of the activity gives hints of it being a result of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Others get hints of it being residual, like the gray lady. I mean, not the gray lady, the white lady, the white apparition that I saw that played like a movie. She's walking back and forth in the hallway. She doesn't interact with you. She doesn't make eye contact like the gray apparition did, but it looks like you're watching a movie, like a projector.
Right.
And the EVPs. I mean, they got 436 EVPs. A lot of them were considered Class A of conversation. I mean, you have one spirit talking to another. They're talking about what's happening in the room right then and there. They're making commentary. The spirits are giving commentary to Steve and Don and myself of what's happening. They're talking about the cameras. They're trying to guess what cameras are being used.
Right.
Is it a motion? Is it a night vision camera? And that's not poltergeist, or so we thought. Steve, in his opinion, this might have to revise what we think about poltergeist. But it was really, and Nikki and her team had the same problem of, one evidence points in one direction, because wall writings, there are documented cases where poltergeist of wall writings, kitchen cabinet door, that's all objects moving, ask for teleport. But generally, you have a child or somebody that's under an unbelievable amount of stress. Remove the stress within that child, and the activity dissipates.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been going on 4 years, which
right.
is almost unheard of for poltergeist as well. So, it was very interesting, given that opinion about, and they're still unsure. They say 70 to 80% poltergeist, but that 20% they have not yet defined.
Right. Now, you mentioned that they came to the assumption that, a lot of it was land-based, or some of it was land-based, I say. Now, I'm sure they interviewed your neighbors or people in the surrounding area. Were some of the neighbors having activity as well?
No, they talked to my neighbors to my left and to my right. Multiple teams did. But Steve and Don interviewed them. They asked them questions. None of my neighbors reported phenomena. The only thing that my neighbor to my right would say is their dog, they have a house dog, does not go to the left side of their house. It refuses to go to the left wing, the portion of their house that's closest to mine. And animals or people who walk their pets in the neighborhood, and we noticed this, me and Tina did, the animals would not come into our yard. They would not. They just purposely avoid it. And this is when we were, having low activity, no activity, or a lot of activity. But nobody could pinpoint to phenomena. I mean, our neighbors. What gave Steve and Dawn the impression that some of this was landlocked was the EVP.
Okay.
The spirit kept saying that, it's the land. You get Irish accents. I don't know if you saw the portion where Dawn is in the woods behind the house in the middle of the dead of night, and he asked the question, are there any Native Americans buried here? And he got a yes. He picked up a yes on the EVP. He picked up on several devices. He couldn't hear with the naked ear, but he picked it up and they reviewed it later. Also, Don went underneath the house and picked up an EVP where the term longhouse, one word, longhouse. Well, longhouse is a Native American term, and Bothell was proliferated with longhouses. These are Native American homes or cabins, if you will, back in the 1800s. There's still some around in Bothell, Snohomish County today, but he didn't ask that question. He would just blurt it out through the EVP of longhouse.
Right.
And the research in the area of Bothell, I'm going back to the Native Americans being in and around Bothell, the local skirmishes. There was a smallpox outbreak that pretty much decimated, almost killed the entire Duwamish tribe. Another name is the Willow people, specific to this area. Then you can't overlook the wall writings. The wall writings of the upside down man. I've looked at over 10,000, me personally, I've looked at over 10,000 poltergeist cases in my research. And maybe 300 out of that 10,000 where wall writings occurred. I found a lot of 666 wall writings throughout the world with poltergeist are concerned. I've yet to find any wall writing of an upside down man except our house.
Right.
But we later found out, like the internet being everybody's best friend,
Right.
an upside down man means a Native American in their language. That means a man has died or is about to die. It mostly means a man has died through an illness like smallpox or measles, which the Pacific Northwest had crazy accounts of in the 17 and 1800s.
Right. Now, what was their opinion of the wall writings? And I'm asking that because in Ghost Adventures, they mentioned, you had the 666 and then you had the upside down man and what appeared to be tribal or Indian type pictures. And they kind of led you to believe, or made the point of saying it's kind of weird to have demonic and tribal symbols all grouped together. What did these guys come up with? I mean,
I could not understand why they drew attention in that way. Because once again, going back to it seemed like they were trying to suggest, because me and Tina were never dismayed by the 666.
Right.
We were not thinking, oh my God, Lucifer's in our house. We thought Lucifer's in our house, this was the other stuff that's happening, not the 666.
Right.
We thought the spirit wrote 666 on the wall as a means of trying to play with our emotions, try to get us, and so when Ghost Adventures threw that out there, I was like, huh? But when Steve and Dawn saw that, they knew like I knew. They're like, this is just Poltergeist trickery. This is just the bait and switch. This is just to keep you on your toes. It's interesting. And I guess a neophyte investigator would see that and like, hey, that's got to be hosted because, you can get a spray paint 666.
Right.
I think they even hinted on the Ghost Adventures episode, like, spray paint. Right. But no, Steve and Dawn even asked the question of, okay, you're here, chisel a piece off, scrape a piece off, and go test it. Right. Because the investigation doesn't stop where the eye meets the paint. Right. The investigation goes when you chisel a piece off and see what the paint is made out of.
Right. Not to harp on Ghost Adventures, but they kind of, especially since we're talking about the writing in your office, the 666 and the markings, they kind of, which I understand their what the line of questioning that Zach was doing to you at that time, and they made they kind of tried to make the point of that you did it, but maybe you were being oppressed or even, being possessed in the spirit or ghost or demon or whatever was making you do it. Now, what was, did you feel, or what's your opinion? Did whatever that was there, was it trying to possess you, or do you think it made you do some things? What's your opinion on the way they were taking that particular scenario?
Being a spirit or a ghost?
Well, what were you? Do you feel maybe that the spirit was trying to possess you or trying to force you to do things? Did you ever once feel like you were the spirit was trying to possess you or oppress you?
Yeah, the spirits were definitely trying to oppress me and Tina, and they were definitely trying to possess. Now, when I say possess, I want to be clear and describe it because I'm not talking about the possess that Hollywood describes. I'm not talking about, they're not trying to get me to turn my head 360 degrees and spit out peach soup.
Right.
There have been moments in the house, and I talk about this in my book, where I've been sleeping in my bed and I feel these poke and prods jabbing at me from underneath the mattress, or the indentations, or the depression in the mattress of something moving towards me. I have felt at times while sleeping where I feel something moving towards me and my eyes open wide because Tina's not in the house, let alone the room. And as soon as my eyes open wide, my back is turned towards the door, I feel a rush zoom through me, and I mean really zoom in me, not through me. It doesn't come out on the other side.
Right.
There's a feeling of feeling flustered, a little bit of euphoria, a little bit of, I just think I had too much caffeine, a little jittery as a result. It's over before it begins, but that's happened a lot. I don't know if that's possession. I call that attachment.
Right. Yeah.
More than possession. Because nothing made me run around the house and be like, he's home or he's back. You know?
Right. Did it ever kind of change your mood? I mean, change your personality or
yeah, I mean, me and Tina, one of the things that house, it's the summer of 2014, summer and fall of 2014, where you're in a pressure cooker.
Right.
Where you're having mood swings that you don't know the origin of. And at that time, you're just in a pressure cooker. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right.
You're irritable. You're sleep deprived. The priest stood you up. The paranormal team came and forgot all their battery packs. I mean, you're frustrated and your finger pointing at Tina. Well, I thought you was going to call the priest. Oh, I thought you were. I got busy at work. Well, you and da 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 da. And the spirits throw more on that. They're like, yeah, give them more, give them more, give them more. I tell people in my book, and I believe this to the core. These spirits in particular, I'm talking about that, and especially after talking to the previous tenant in the home and what it did to their marriage, these spirits are hell bent on breaking up relationships.
Mm-hmm.
They're hell bent on getting couples to kill each other.
Right.
That's what they want. That's what they want to do. They want me and Tina to be at each other's throats, go all the way. If you read my book, you'll see how they were doing setup of putting female jury in Tina's path where she would start questioning me about, hey, where does earring come from? Where does jury come from? I'm like, I don't know. Tina be going out of town on business. She'd come back and there'd be a female earring in the bed. But that's going to make any woman. And I'm like, well, Tina, number one, remember what house we live in. But, it's easier said than done when you find an item like that in your bed.
Yeah, all sense of reason kind of goes out you forget about the spirit at that point when.
Yeah, you forget the spirit at that point. And the spirits are just edging you on, like, yeah, go berserk, right. go Hulk on. You go Hulk on her, and we'll reap the benefits of. We'll bail you out of jail. We'll bail her out of jail. No, they won't. And you're trying to maintain your sanity, and there became a time where I told Tina, we can't have disagreements or arguments in our house, because every time we did, and it could be the most minute disagreement, opposites start flying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the lights would flutter, or, you argue about, hey, you left the seat up or down. I mean, you literally move furniture or hear furniture move, or give each other the cold shoulder. Oh, my computer monitor was caught on fire one night or one weekend when me and Tina stopped talking to each other because we were so mad. And Sunday morning, the computer monitor just busted into flames and woke both of us. So all that, it's gasoline on top of TNT,
right.
on top of nuclear reactor at that point.
Right. It's just a powder keg waiting to explode.
Oh, yeah. Very much.
Throughout this entire run of 4 years, did you or any of these other paranormal investigating teams, was there any physical attacks? Were there any scratches or, pushing or any kind of, I know things got thrown, but I'm talking physical as in scratches or touched. Did you feel threatened at any point?
Yeah, going back to 2014, January 2nd, what I believe and what we later confirmed through the EVP that Steve and Dawn captured, I had a bad fall January 2nd, 2014. This was when the house was quiet. I was coming downstairs for a glass of water, and I slipped in the midway stairwell and tore my right patella tendon. It was a bad fall, horrific fall. Had to get the fire department and the EMT over, and it required surgery for me to reattach it. So I was laid up for 2 months upstairs, and Tina had to go to work. And that's when I started hearing footsteps in the kitchen cabinet door noise again, as I'm laid up in bed, in and out due to pain meds. And the credenza or the armoire got thrown a few weeks after that. We later learned, because that was one of the things on the back of Steve's mind as they're trying to determine what's in this house, if it's friend or foe, they ask question, anybody push Keith down the stairs? And they got an EVP where it was, we pushed Keith down the stairs. They used my name in their response, and they used plural. They said, yeah, we did. We pushed him down the stairs. And they played that to me. They played that. I remember hearing that on Dawn's Olympus voice recorder. And I was like, wow, me and Tina always had that riddle in our head. Was my fall an accident or on purpose? Tina got scratched a few weeks after the Ghost Adventures left the house. Not when the episode aired, but after they left. She would wake up every morning and have 3 scratches on both her arms and legs. Also, one time she was in the shower, came out coming screaming at me, saying, oh my God. And you see these red streaks on her arms and thigh area. That happened like 3 days in a row. Just to give you and your listeners close proximity of how close these spirits are to us, is one morning we woke up. This is around the time that Tina got scratched. We woke up one morning and the mattress cover that we were sleeping on, the mattress cover, was shriveled up as confetti.
Really?
It looked like Wolverine and Freddy Krueger got into a grudge match in the middle of the night while we were sleeping. We woke up and, you're on the brush your teeth, you got out of bed, and half the sheets are following with you because it's all shredded up. And it's just dripping. And me and Tina looked at each other. We would sleep over that. You can't do that sleeping on top of something. And I'm literally talking confetti. The entire is a King's California King size bed, and the sheet was confetti. And soon after, she got those scratches. And a lot of weird stuff happened like that in the bed. So pretty close proximity stuff.
Okay, so the activity in the house has been documented, and the UK team spends 2 weeks or whatever there, and they come to the conclusion you have poltergeist, you have residual, and you have something that they really don't know what it is because it's not falling in any category. What did they tell you to do?
Steve mainly because he's a parapsychologist. One of the things that advice he gave even before he arrived, and keep in mind their second visit came in April. They brought Nick Kyle. Nick Kyle was the former president of the SSPR, and the advice given by both gentlemen, because they were trying to go at the poltergeist angle. Even though there is level 1 activity, there are things that you should do, steps you should take. We're pretty sure the spirits don't like cameras, so we don't want to ever erect more cameras in the home. That will elevate or escalate the activity. And for lack of a better word, other paranormal team told me that gives the spirits attention.
Right.
That gives them a target to shoot at. Oh, you got cameras? All right, I'll just take one. And at the time, I was being stupid buying more cameras to replace the ones that they were stealing.
Right.
So then they start them at me. Also, you don't have to smudge anymore. We've determined that smudging creates an adverse effect. It does. That's why the poster caught fire. But also, they say when phenomena happens in and around you, try not to overreact to it.
Okay.
Try not to, run or come screaming or, oh my God, just kind of, whatever. But at that time, I'd already made my mind that I was going to move anyways, but it was good to hear them tell me that. But I had already made the determination. Once again, my goal was to get our claims substantiated, and I thought both teams did. I sent you their comprehensive report
and
a documentary. But you're really going to like this. And once again, this is not a harp on ghost method, but this is just actual fact. When information about the case became public, I'm talking about the UK team and the US team, and the paranormal circles are small. I mean, it's just small world. And Fox News came back to the house and they watched and looked over the shoulder of Steve and Dawn and Nikki, and they said, "Hey, the guys have found something. They found stuff. There's truth here." But when the report became official and was released, somebody, not me, introduced it to Zach and Dave Schrader to get their opinion. David Rose of Seattle Fox News wanted to get their opinion for the record.
Right.
Somebody on Ghost Adventures who had saw the tweet put it on Zach's wall and Dave Schrader's wall, and their response was just so negative. And they're not responding to me. They responded to Steve and Dawn. They were like, it's off the wall. Where's the video of? They were just being so asinine to their own field, to Nikki, to
right.
people that, these are people in your field, in your profession.
Right.
And they're like, no. And they've already gone on the record to say, hey, we lived in the house 3 weeks. We lived in the house. There's truth here. They're not calling you guys bad. They're just saying, hey, we came and, we spent more time. Obviously, you guys got a show to do and,
Right.
And they weren't thinking them as a ha-ha, I told you so. Even Dawn was like, hey, this is, we got 430 some odd EVPs, and here it is. The world can see it, analyze, chew it up, spit it out, or whatever. Their whole response was as if to suggest, if we don't find it, it's not, nobody finds it. And it just, I just sit there like, who does that?
That's the problem with these paranormal shows, especially. And the more I watch, I watch them mainly to kind of get ideas, basically. But I don't put a lot of stock into what Zach does or what any of the other ones do. There's so many now, because they're entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like YouTube. I mean, a lot of these YouTube people, like the exploration guys and ghost hunting guys, which technically I'm part of too, because I have a podcast and I do videos, but they're doing it on YouTube. They're doing it for views, and on Travel Channel, they pay the bills. They need viewers. So it's entertainment, and their job is to entertain. And if they don't get anything and they need to get a show out, they're going to spin it like what they did to you. And then it's almost like they get caught. I don't want to say caught in a lie, but they have to defend their position because they think they have to keep their credibility up. To where with this evidence coming in, they should have just said, "Hey, okay, we spent 5 hours there. We didn't get anything. These guys spent more time. Good for them. Good. Okay, maybe we should have went back, or maybe we should investigate a little bit more instead of attacking the people who did find something. Of course, they found something. They spent weeks there. You spent hours. I mean, it's almost to the when I hear that they did that to them, that just basically tells me, and I don't have anything against them. I don't have opinion either way, but that tells me, the first thing that pops into my mind when I hear that is, okay, now they're just getting defensive because they probably know they didn't do a great job just for the mere fact they didn't have the time, and they don't stay at a location for weeks on end because they can't. And so they got defensive, essentially, is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Jim Harold, but he brought up a good point. He's like, hey, this guy was not only up in the Keith, talking about Keith Linder myself, if he was not on the up and it was all hopeless, fakery, he would have doubled down or tripled down.
Right.
This guy doubled down and tripled down, bought a team halfway across the world, told them they can live in his house.
Right.
Sometimes he's not even know. When Nikki and them lived in the house, I went to work. They just had to access to the house when I was even there. Right. So you have access to all the rooms, crooks and crannies, and that's just not the action of a faker or a hoaxer or exaggerator.
Right.
But finally, when the evidence comes out and you give it to the team, I'm like, well, give it to anybody y'all want to, and anybody can scrutinize or whatever. I don't care. And then, oh, no, that's me, da, 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 da. And I was like, wow, dude, your field, man. Not my field, your field. I'm
right.
IT. We don't do IT.
Right. That's kind of, you think that, but I guess there's so much money involved with the TV shows where they kind of got to be a little, defensive to where, on a smaller scale with just paranormal teams that are going out investigating, hey, they're doing it on their own dime. So they're happy for other teams. There's kind of a camaraderie there. And, oh, you got that there? Okay, well, I'm going to go there and kind of look for that too. Here's what I got. They kind of compare notes. It's not really a competition to where I guess there's so much money involved when, you're probably millions of dollars at stake. You're going to be a little, territorial, I guess, and kind of, once you get backed into a wall, stand your ground.
Yeah, money and ego. That lets me know you've been in it too long when it gets that
right.
personal.
They have to. They have to kind of do it just for a mere fact because shows are getting canceled all the time, so they kind of have to stick to their guns a little bit. So where are you? Yeah. You moved out in 2016 after all this has taken place. Do you feel you got vindicated with this report, and what has the reaction been to the internet world to this report, or has it changed their mind? I mean, the Ghost Adventures fanatics, you're never going to change their mind, just from the mere fact, whatever, Zach walks on water. But has the overall tone changed towards you?
Yeah, the response from the paranormal community, for me, for Tina, it has been positive. I mean, a lot of people who came, even after the episode was in the air, I always thought there was something more to that house than meets the eye, even after I saw the episode. Then it took them 2 years for them to realize, oh, another team went in and found something. They came to, oh, yeah, that episode always interested me. It went off weird. It was abruptly. There was never an aftershocks afterward. What happened to Keith and Tina? So a lot of teams reached out to me and found me on the internet. But overall, you're right. The fanatical, they're never going to accept, and that's fine. I get that. But the paranormal community, both in the United States and in the UK and elsewhere, like I said, Steve has given several lectures. He wrote a book, the documentary, the report, my YouTube channel. I just throw my stuff on YouTube. I don't give it a lot of Hollywood flash or editing. I just throw it up there. Some videos are longer than others, and people can make of it as they may. Some evidence is better than others. I just put it out there. For me, what I did this for was for the next house occupant after me, not necessarily in that house, but in any house. If they ever want to go the route that I and be, put under flame and fire, they're like, hell no, I'm not doing that. That's what happened to Keith.
Right.
Now there's another side to that. I tell people now, hindsight being 2020, there's a few silver linings out of this account. This cost me $10, it cost me to grow all up. But there's a silver lining in the fact of I never would have found Nikki and her team and Steve and Dawn and others had Ghost Adventures found one orb or something. I never would have had the motivation. That would have been it for me. Oh, y'all found an orb or y'all found whatever dust part. Okay, I'm out here. That would have been it for me. Because that made me drill down deeper and find these guys. And look what you have. You have 436 EVPs on trip 1, almost 200 EVPs on trip 2. Even their minds were blown, which what I adds weight to because our minds were blown. Steve talked about it in rare detail in his book. You saw the documentary. You saw the shadows captured in the hallway. The hallway was round 1. You saw it's a camera, the conversation. You saw the anomalies happening around the bed. So all that stuff adds credence. So for me, that's the silver lining. And your listeners, they can go and find this stuff. It's not Hollywood-esque and just look at it and be like, okay, all right, good deal. I remember that episode vaguely, Ghost Adventures, and I see this, and the difference is obvious. You can watch the hour episode and watch Steve and Dawn's documentary and tell who's going to come out on top as far as evidence.
Right. So you moved out. How far away did you move from that location?
20 minutes. 20 minutes. I live in Linwood, Mount Lake Terrace, Washington, which is 20 minutes from Bothell. I have friends in Bothell. I have a friend who lives 2 houses down from the house, and occasionally his house for barbecue. Now, I try not to go back to the house. Just for everybody to know, there's a husband and wife who bought the house, I think, a month or so after I moved out. The house was put on the market. The homeowner sold it. It sold in 11 days once it was on the market. It's a husband and wife. They know of the house. They
Mhm.
are aware of what happened inside the house.
Mhm.
They decide to move anyways.
Mhm.
But 2 months into the house, I get an email from my friend who lives a few houses down. He said, "Hey, that house you used to live in, they put a blue door on it. It has a blue door now."
Hmm.
And I googled blue door, and blue doors is a symbol for keeping negative spirits out of your home.
So,
So several believe in the power of, what color door you have. I forgot what red means or green, but each color means something. Blue signifies keeping negativity away from your house. I'm not going back to talk to them to say, "Hey, are you having flying pottery?" Or
right.
because that's not my motivation.
Right.
One of the things Steve told me and told them, uh, certain people, even with a level 1 activity, if you're just clairvoyant enough, you might not notice it.
Right.
You might not, and you might not notice. You go downstairs and get a cup of water and come back, and the light's off. You just turn it back on.
Right.
Me, the 3 times that happened, I know I didn't turn the light off.
Right.
I'm just wired that way. So I was like, start doing tests, and I know I didn't turn the light off. But anybody else, and that might keep the spirits at bay. But once again, it's not so much the house itself, people living in it.
Right.
I think it's from the synergy of me and Tina, in addition to Rhonda, the previous tenant, and her family, because her family and me and Tina, we had a lot of similarities.
Right. Now, since you've moved out of the location and you live 20 minutes away, has activity, are you experiencing any activity now at your new place?
Yeah, I get weird stuff every now and about 3 weeks ago. My phone charger, which was sitting on my couch plain as day on my cushion when I went to bed, and when I went up in the morning to go to work, I was looking for it. It was gone. It was not on my. I live alone. I live in a 2-bedroom townhome, and it was gone. And I flipped all the cushions to look for it. I go through the act of flipping every cushion because I thought maybe it fell through the cracks. Well, guess what? I'm running late, so I stopped searching for it. And I was like, man, I could have sworn I left it on the couch before I went to bed, and I just flipped the cushions. It's not under there. So I come back home 8 hours later, and there it is sitting on the cushion.
Yeah. So, but it's nowhere near the activity you experienced before. Just little knick-knack stuff.
No, there's no. Occasionally, the water puddle incident was on day 1 when I moved in. That happened. Occasional, electronic issues, but nothing like the house. No.
Right.
The only thing that, going back to that forever constant, the only thing that still happens, and what book 2 would be about, is the stuff that happens when I go to bed.
Okay.
The poke, the prodding, and the heartbeats. Because I kid you not, there are heartbeats, and Nikki felt it, and Steve and Dawn felt it, and got evidence of it when they were in the Bothell house.
Mm.
But the heartbeats and pulsation coming from the mattress, mainly the pillow area or the headboard area, that hasn't stopped. That hasn't stopped whether I go in a hotel, it's a little business, or the jabbing, or the tugging of the sheets, or the poking and grabbing at your ankles,
right,
and whatnot. But no movement, no rapping, the phenomenon known as rapping, or slams. No.
Now, you said you're writing another book about your kind of afterlife of Bothell?
Yeah, so book 1, the Bothell Hell House, starts May 2012 and ends around March, April of 2016. Book 2 picks up where book 1 left off, which is the last 2 months in the house.
Mm-hmm.
It includes the second investigation by Steve, Dawn, and Nick. Remember, Steve and Dawn came the first time in January. It came back again in April, and they brought Nick Kyle with them, and they stayed even longer. Stayed 8 days. So that, and then the first 2 years of me living in my new place, which is once again the bed stuff, the water puddle, and the evidence that Steve and Dawn found on the second trip.
Okay. When are you expecting that to be finished and out for the public?
Book 2 should be out. I'm looking for the end of summer.
In the summer. Now, where can everybody find? I'm sure Amazon, but where all can they find book number 1?
The Bothell Hell House, Poltergeist of Washington State, is on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle version.
Okay.
That's on Amazon, multiple countries. So yeah.
Right. Now, go ahead and tell everybody. I know we talked about your YouTube channel, but any social media where people can maybe reach out and ask you some questions or see what you have coming up, or maybe even if you have a new video coming out, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There's 2 places you can find a treasure trove of evidence. One is YouTube, Keith Linder, or Keith L. And you'll come to my YouTube channel, once again, 600 odd videos. I advise people that are interested, start from the oldest to the newest, because that'll give you a understanding of how things gradually pick up over the course of, we're now looking at 5 or 6 years. But there's a lot of stuff there, and a lot of stuff that the UKs gave me upon leaving is on the YouTube channel. And there's other mini documentaries, 2 by Steve Mera, that are on my YouTube channel. They're about an hour, 2 hours long.
Okay.
One's a lecture, a 2-hour lecture. The other one's on Facebook, and you can just search in Facebook. It's called the Washington Poltergeist House, or Washington State Poltergeist House, 4 words, and just type that in Facebook. That page was created by me and the U.S. team, Nick and the others. And that one has all the current events, some of the reports we talked about tonight. And of course, you can reach me via email from going to the Washington State Poltergeist House site on Facebook, because I'm the administrator there. So you'll see my comments and my videos and articles. And anybody can send me an email. I'll respond within 24 hours because people have questions and whatnot. Also, in the Bothell Hell House book are links and access to a lot of the evidence, a lot of the phenomena being reported, the 3 burning Bibles, the wall analysis of the wall markings, because we did test stuff. So people can find that stuff. And the book is very interactive, meaning the first book, when you buy the book or read the book, you also have the ability to pull up videos and audio of the EVPs.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of EVPs in the first book, a lot of them.
Okay. Now, quick question before we call this a wrap. What are you doing with, since obviously you have experience in the paranormal, have you thought about kind of maybe doing some investigations for yourself to kind of get in the field a little bit and maybe help some people that are experiencing what you've experienced?
Well, currently I belong to a sort of like a poltergeist support group, if you will,
Okay.
On Facebook, where people have reached out to me who've had similar or worse or less experience with the poltergeist, and we feed off each other information. Believe it or not, I sometimes get emails from people all over the world who are going through something horrible. And we pivot. I pivot them to resources to help. But a lot of times we're just brainstorming and talking.
Right.
I think when I get done with book 2, I would like to, talk more about the phenomena that I experienced from the aspect of here's what not to do.
Right.
To exacerbate the activity in your home, because these spirits, that's the malevolent ones, they don't suffer fools. They don't feel sorry for you for making a mistake. It's really, thank you for making a mistake, but we got to let you pay for it. So yes, I can sort of, contribute that way, as well as just making the evidence, because there's still evidence that we're analyzing and digging through, and then when we confirm it and it's vetted by several individuals, then I release it. I release it on my YouTube channel.
Okay.
I don't release anything unless I get it first by Nick or Dawn or Steve or Nikki or her team. That way I have a vetting process and they can substantiate it. And okay, because I still got half a terabyte of audio that I took myself while both teams were in my house that I listened to on my spare time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I find stuff, I send it to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, wow!" And they analyze it, and they're like, "Okay, you can go with that." So it's interesting stuff.
Well, I'm glad things have calmed down for you, and I think it's great that hopefully your books can help people, and you want to move into that realm to where you're helping people, because it can be, as you know, daunting and terrifying when you're living with that kind of activity where you don't know where to turn. And it's good for that there are people out here, that there are people like you, I should say, that can help them through there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. These were great questions. I enjoyed it. Matter of fact, it was good.
Like I said, everybody be sure to check out his book, go to his YouTube channel, subscribe, look for future evidence that he's still going through, and see what he finds, because it's a fascinating story no matter which side you take, but you need to hear both sides of the story. And I'm so thankful that I got a chance to have you on and tell your side of the story, and hopefully some people will come around, and maybe you won't get any kind of hate mail anymore from Ghost Adventures.
Oh no, the hate mail has long gone. I don't have to go by the wayside when the reports came out.
Right.
The trolls, they fell off by the wayside. And that's a good thing.
All right. Well, once again, thanks for coming on, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. There you have it. That was my conversation with Keith. What'd you think? Now, I like the story because this could have went a completely different way. He could have been very jaded and, not want to double down essentially on the hoaxing thing. Because if somebody was hoaxing, like he said about Jim Harold from, I believe his podcast is called the Paranormal Podcast, why would he go to that extreme? If he was hoaxing all that evidence, after his 15 minutes were up, why did he keep pushing it? Why did he let another paranormal research group, actually two paranormal research groups, come in and stay there, live with him for that time? That takes some cojones. He was not hoaxing. He was experiencing something. Thank you for listening. Like I said, if you have a comment, be sure to comment on the YouTube page for the video of this podcast. Head on over to philsams.com. You can leave a comment at the show note page, and that's philsams.com/surviving-a-poltergeist. Also, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you like it, be sure to hit the like button and get notifications. Be sure to check out next week's podcast. They come out every Tuesday, and if not, I will let you know on Twitter. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day, everybody.